let's talk about horror films that have genuinely scared me. I attempt to brag about the fact that I try to be a horror aficionado, I guess, given it's my favorite genre. This isn't to say I've seen every single horror film that exists, and I probably never will. There are some that just aren't up my alley, like I'm not so big into it that I will watch every single horror film. This could entitle something like torture porn that I like to call it, the Saw franchise. It's horror, it ain't my type of horror. Also, I'm not very big on ghosts. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think American versions where it's just, spooky jump scares just ain't my kind of jam. So, there's that. And so, I don't know, it's always made me think, someone like me who watches horror a lot, and I feel like I could be, you watch something enough, you get used to it. So, I'm not so susceptible to horror anymore, to being scared. I guess the scary nature of most films are kind of phased out in my mind. Yet I like to still watch them because it's a good, interesting portrayal of kind of like surrealist film. So, which films in that I have seen can I definitely say have actually horrified me? Like have genuinely scared me or given me nightmares? Well, my most prevalent example would be Alien. I'd say the whole series, especially given how it's always scared me since I was a kid, but I've gotten much more used to the franchise. I mean, even the first one doesn't scare me as much anymore, but it still does, and it still has, I could say something like Paranormal Activity scared me, but of course it scared me as a kid because it was just, look, oh, it's a jump scare because it's an invisible creature. There's nothing clever or artistic about those scares. So I could get jumped by a jump scare. Does that mean I have been scared and will be traumatized by it? No. Alien, on the other hand, definitely traumatized me. And I've definitely been affected by it in terms of the fact that I still have nightmares to this day about it. A lot more few and far between nowadays, but for the most part, it's usually, yeah. And it's always one of those scenarios of I'm inside the world where the xenomorphs and the fucking facehuggers exist. It's always the facehugger. It's always the facehugger. Oh, it's just, I hate it. Like, I love these creatures. I love these films, and I still can't handle facehuggers. It still just creeps me out and just is not fun. Like, most of the time it's just the egg and knowing that it's in there and it's waiting to pounce at you. And it scares the bones off me, So that's probably the film that scared me the most in my life. What's another one? Ringu actually did. This is the Japanese film The Ring. That film scared me. I only watched it this year for the first time, so I'm almost I'm in my 20s now, and it's actually scared me just through the sheer atmosphere of it. Arguably, I'd say The Evil Dead as well, but The Evil Dead has a scary atmosphere, but I didn't have as much of a repercussion because, I guess maybe because of the lack of big budget kind of production design from the creatures and stuff. Because, as much as the atmosphere from that film was particularly scary, and the creatures, I guess, the Deadites are arguably scary, there's too much of a cheesy aspect for it to be really, truly horrifying for me. Whereas something like Ringu just is. It's just, stop watching the TV. It just has this effect that actually scares me, and I find it kind of strange that it does. But I admire it for doing so. It's a film that came out I'm very sure the year I was born, and 20 years later actually has scared me. Whereas I will look at all these horror films that I've seen, that I've watched, and I think I have an actual list, because I'm trying to remember. I'm very sure there was a third actual horror film that scared me, because something like The Shining, which is my third favorite horror film of all time, has never actually scared me. I remember watching it, maybe because the first time I ever watched it, I had a head cold and I just wasn't receptive to these things. At the time, it didn't actually scare me, and so arguably that's kind of a problem in itself. I don't know, maybe there's an argument about the kind of boldness aspect. Like, oh, does it make me feel better just because I didn't, like, that I don't say that I got scared by something like, you know, Paranormal Activity, whereas it's like, I mean, I did get scared by it because, of course, I was a kid, but I watch it now and it might still jump me. I might get jump scares from it, but does that mean it truly, genuinely scares me? Not really. It never had a lasting effect. I mean, outside of, you have those nights where you're just like, oh my god, this invisible ghost creature could attack me. No. It's nothing like Alien. Nothing like that Xenomorph. Okay, a film that didn't exactly... I'd argue it scared me, but to a particular effect would be Hereditary from 2018. Given that my theatre experience, one of the only theatre experiences that I really so fondly remember, and it's weird to put fondly with that, because I went there by myself. There were still people in the theater. People were talking throughout the first 2 minutes of the film, but then they just stopped talking, and then suddenly, spoiler warning, character gets killed off, and then boom, I won't say who or how, but the way it's done, the traumatic experience of it, is just shocked me to my core. So I guess to an extent, it horrified me. Which I find really interesting. Something like, Nightmare on Elm Street never really scared me. I've never really found Krueger to be scary. He has a scary presence, yes, but he's never scared me per se. Zombie films don't exactly do it. Sometimes they'll have jump scares, like Train to Busan is pretty effective, but it's never really scared me. I mean, yes, it has scared me, but it hasn't, to the effect of a long-lasting effect. I think nothing really zombie-wise has really, brought such effect to me. The Haunting of Hill House, even though it's not a film, it's pretty good. It's got some good scares in it. But something Jaws kind of did. And that's its own thing, because I was scared of watching... I think it was one of those things where you get the idea built up in your mind to watch a film, and then you think you're going to get scared by it, but then you might not be. Jaws, I think, still has that scary effect, and I definitely, even I've rewatched it a few times now, I still think it retains that effect. But there are films like The Exorcist, which I haven't watched. Hills Have Eyes, I haven't watched. There are a lot of classic horror films that I have not watched. Which of course makes me question, can I really say this whole entire list if I know that there are films that are horror films that I will dread watching, but still will watch it, and still have not watched them. So I can't say that it scared me, so I can't add it to my list, can't add it to those sweet tags and get all those views for people searching up The Exorcist. Seriously, who would? I mean, not to say that people wouldn't, but yeah, I know. It's interesting in my mind to detail that kind of a thing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, even stuff like the latest Ari Aster film, Midsommar, that never scared me. I actually really enjoyed it. I came out of the theater with a smile on my face. I'm like, that was really fun. That was enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, I've watched the latest It films as well, and the first one, I was laughing for all the scary bits because I knew what was going to happen. I'm like, all this tense stuff, which I liked the tension, and then cheesy jump scare, or not exactly cheesy, but so strangely executed. Oh wow, he's jumping and going crazy in the water. It's scary because he's a clown. I don't get it. It just made me laugh. Yeah, the second one probably had more hard-hitting scares, but didn't have the same tension. It was just kind of going out the window. But I guess that's what happens when you watch kids versus watching adults. So yeah, I don't know, just a small little video. I guess look, if you've got creatures that you think will scare me, or that have scared you before, maybe they've traumatized you or something, feel free to comment them in the description, in the comments. I'd like to talk about it. It's interesting to get people's perspective on what in horror films has actually scared them. And if you would define getting scared still by jump scares, which are the most categorically ones that will just, boom, scared you. You're laughing now, aren't you? Because Aubrey Plaza walked past the camera in Child's Play, and they made a loud noise even though she just walked past the camera. Spooky scary. Cool, bye.